Hey everybody, it's Nick Inman, founder of VolumeProfileTrader.com on Saturday, March 16th, and we're going to go through some broad markets here, the S&P, the NASDAQ, some bonds, golds, and then a few stocks, some that we're involved in, and we'll just kind of leave it off from there. So first things first, I want to go with the S&P, and I want to say that this market is clearly in an uptrend. It's clearly been right to be a buyer. However, eventually we're going to see some type of pullback, and you don't want to be caught, extremely long in that pullback, even though the market, may go to new highs, after that pullback. You never know, right? But I think the point is, you're at this is the way I see it, and this is from a more shorter term perspective. And when I mean shorter term, I mean, anywhere from, basically, if your time frame is less than 3 months, 3 months or less, even 6 months or less, you look at where this market has gone and, since November, since the end of the year, whatever you want to call it, and you can see, if I really zoom in, it's gone from the lower left to the upper right, and, eventually that's going to end. Eventually you're going to see that pullback, sort of like we saw here, where we went from the lower left to the upper right, and then we got our pullback. And yes, that pullback was a higher low, but from the long side, that was a little bit painful. So you want to be looking for clues that this market may be getting ready to stall out, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to try to continue to keep an eye on that and see where this could go. The NASDAQ, really what I see is this thing, if I really zoom in here, since the 4th, which was that gap higher, we've really had, it's been a struggle, and the reason why I say that is because every day the NASDAQ has been open, it's closed lower except for one, and then this obvious first one. So, I do want to point that out. If I bring up the NASDAQ, I wonder what that looks like. So it looks a little bit different, but I think it remains the same. And one thing I want to point out is, okay, of course, Friday was, the quad witch, where a lot of options expire, future contracts, etc. But, you have this little double top here. Now you have a lower high rollover. If this breaks these lows here, you could catch a little momentum to the downside. Look to fill in these, this bottom end of the range. I'm just kind of speculating here from looking at that chart alone. If I zoom in a little bit, I've been doing some work with this chart, so I would say the mess, not the mess, but all the lines, just be aware of it. We have our median lines here, which are going up, and then what I did was I just measured from call it the bottom of this median line up to the middle, and then I just extended it. So this line here, this sloping line to the upside, is the equivalent distance from this lower band, this lower line to the median line or the middle line, and then I did it again down here. So it's just kind of doing its thing, right? And you can see price did a pretty good job pivoting around this line, and now we're starting to fail from it. So yeah, I'm kind of looking for a little bit of downside momentum here on the NASDAQ. And that's just kind of how I view it. However, I look at Apple, and Apple's kind of popped out of the squeeze, right? Our target here is kind of 450, which is last month's point of control, you can call it. I just want to look at it on an hourly too, yeah. And what I think the most important chart is this daily here. And again, you can see these median lines did a great job here at holding price in, and every time price was up at this median line, it was right to be a seller. Well, one thing that I want to point out recently is, okay, what was the last two trades to the long side? How were they successful? One was this higher low here, where it pierced the median line, came back over, retested it, then you get this higher low here, good bounce to the upside, and from there it was right to be a seller, sell, sell, sell. And then we can't get back down to this median line here, and we stabilized, and then we got long on this day right here, and the reason why was because it basically a double bottom, whatever you want to call it, and then it continued to move sideways, sideways, sideways. We got closer to this what am I trying to say here? This upper line here, this median line extreme, and eventually we popped out. But what's different between here and here, where we failed here and had a really nice move down, and versus here, where we just kind of trickled sideways and then popped out? Well, here, look at the selling volume. That's important. Whereas here, look at the selling volume. And then we get a pop out on the upside. So we cleared this high here. So now I'm kind of looking, okay, where's our next target? This 450 level or so. So keep that in mind, another $7 or so. If you caught this long when I introduced it earlier last week, then I think you continue to ride this. Goldman, on the other hand, you know, it was a speculative short, and I'm going to bring in the chart that made me think it. We had our high, and what was happening was the market was moving higher, and Goldman rolled over, and then we had this big sell bar, got short on this sell bar, made new lows here, you know, worked for a little bit, and then we had that reversal on Thursday or Friday. Let me see. Friday. And on that, you know, that's your signal to get out, take your small loss, and move on, because this is what we were looking for, you know, a move to the downside. It couldn't break here, and then Friday we pierced above, so that's short thesis. Counter trend, didn't work, whatever. Too bad, so sad, move on. Probably should have taken the Q when we couldn't break or close below last month's point of control, but whatever. You know, it's just part of the game, right? All right, now what I think is probably most important here, bonds. I have a few charts that I want to show you. I guess we'll start with the 30-year first, because that's... All right. 30-year, what's going on here? Okay, I drew some median lines going down, and what we have here is this middle median line has been a great level where you should take profits to the short side, right? But now we're stabilizing here. We have another double bottom. This thing could get a little bit of momentum to the upside and close some gaps. So keep that in mind. And also, if I zoom out a little more, I want to draw some retracements here. And I'm going to draw two. One is off these lows. And if you know my style, you know, first, this 21-23 retrace zone right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see it. Right here. Great level to buy. Eventually it wasn't. We broke down, retested, sold off. Now we're in the 34-38 retrace zone right here, right at the median line. You know, we're also at this point of control, and this is important here. This point of control for the month of, excuse me, this is for 3 months worth of data, but I guess that's beyond the point. This is a, call it a virgin point of control. These are usually not left undone for, you know, at some magical moment in time, they'll be retested probably 95% of the time. So keep that in mind. We're bouncing off those levels. If I just put a target on this, 144.25 on the 30-year, the 10-year, I'm going to draw lines again, see what the retrace is. All right, so the 21-23 retrace zone was good support, good support. Then all of a sudden it just becomes a cluster. So I guess the 10-year has sold off less than the 30-year. However, let's see, let's draw some median lines. It's kind of sloppy. Not the best lines. So we'll just leave it at that and kind of go from there. I'm not even going to worry about it. I guess the point is, you know, if I had to pick one of the two, I think the better support right here is the 30-year. So let's see, looking at the TLT, there's your shot. What do? You get long TLT, you put your stop under 114.50, and you look for a target around, you know, 119, 119.5, and you know, if it gets there, great. Just trail your stop. Try to get your stop to break even as soon as possible. And if the trade works out, great. Notice this is a little bit counter trend, but I think if you keep your stop below 114.50, I think the risk is worth it, and probably a trade that I'll look to put on the beginning of next week. So, all right. Gold. Back down at the bottom end of this range. Is it right to be a buyer or seller at the bottom end of this range? This is important. Is it right to be a buyer or seller at the bottom end of this range? Where was it right to be a buyer? Down here. Where was it right to be a seller? Up here. So until that changes, this downtrend here was nothing more than that, and now we look for a potential bottom. I'm going to draw some, probably maybe not the right time frame to draw it in. I'm going to go down to the 2 hour, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, 2 hour time frame. Let me zoom out some to 180. Alright. So we had our pitchforks down, worked, then we had a little Hagopian here, and it breaks out. We retest, just like the S&P here, or the NASDAQ, whichever one I showed. This, from the distance between the top to the bottom, measured here, is the same thing. Notice that was a good level to sell, and we're creeping up on this now sideways. But if I zoom in here, we have our low, we have our high. We're range bound, right? We have our higher low. This is kind of the way I see it. 1580 is your pivot, which is the current month's point of control. If I draw, this is a little speculative, but if I draw that, alright, so arguably you place your stop below 1570-ish, about 20 points risk on gold. Maybe we get a breakout. You want to see it get above 1600 on GLD. I took a little short trade on this, a long trade, but a short-term trade. Last week it was just like at the money, two strike call spread, and that ended up working out. But this, I think it could be a good risk reward to the upside. So just keep that in mind, and maybe it's something that you want to participate in. So from there, let's just go broad really quick. XLF, clearly going from lower left to upper right, but look how it's gone a bit parabolic, and kind of reminds me of what happened here, where you had your steady uptrend, pull back, bam, basically a blow off top. Here we go, steady uptrend, pull back. Uh-oh, is this a blow off top? I'm not really sure, but let me put it this way. I'm not going to hesitate to short Goldman again, and I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm not going to, just go out ruthlessly and short Goldman, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. If it starts rolling over again, if it gives me another setup, then I'll take it. What I'm really looking at is, okay, here's our lows, here's our highs. We have a lower low, or excuse me, a lower high. We have some higher lows. If this point of control holds, that's great. If not, we'll see. So really, that's all I wanted to cover. Let's keep it basic. Let's see, Dow. Oh, oil. That's the last one. Oil is doing its thing, right? It's actually been pretty good trading lately. Just huge range, right? You have your lows. Let's see. If I did it like this, that's not necessarily how okay. This is how I'm going to do it. We have our low. We have our high. We have our high. We have our low. You get where I'm going, right? We are just continuing to tighten up here in this range. This is going to break out soon, eventually. If I do something like this, hold on. Okay, I did the point of control. It's up here, so you kind of use that as your bogey. We're clearly in a range. Maybe I need to zoom out even more. And you can see we have another high. We have another low. So this is, this is a serious consolidation pattern, and if you want to connect the lows and connect the highs, we need to be watching this. This could be, the next big thing to move. And this could, if you kind of look out into the future, this could go easily to the end of this year before something happens. So that's really all I have to say on that. So anyways, all right, that's it. Take care, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next time.